Dear Rentals Club members, today I am with a true industry expert, Annie Holcombe. Just presenting her can tell you a lot about what she can bring to the table today. She's the Director of Revenue and Client Acquisition at Lexicon Travel. She's also on Clubhouse, the host of the STR Professionals Club. And she's also now the co-host of the Alex and Annie Real Women of Vacation Rentals podcast. Annie, I'm so happy to have you here today, if I can say that. Welcome. How are you today?
I'm doing well. Thank you. I'm honored to be here. I've been watching your episodes and reading your Rental Scale Up newsletter for, gosh, I guess about almost a year now, and just enjoying it and engaging with you and all the deep dives that you do into the industry. It's been fascinating. So I'm honored to be here.
Wow, thank you, because it's the same with me. I'm so happy to have you here. And you know, to be transparent, we actually had a session last week to prepare this conversation, right? And there's so much you can bring to the table, you can share. And I'm so happy, you know, again, there's different venues, you know, where people can hear from you and hear from what you have to say. But today we have one big topic, which I thought you came up with, and I found super fascinating, is how today property managers should think about yielding the channels they're using. Just like people learned how to do, to yield the revenues, they also have to yield channels. That's super fascinating. So let's get straight into it. So as I said, people have had it feels like, you know, people just had to learn about yield management and revenue and dynamic pricing, this kind of things. So, and now we have yielding channels. So what is this about?
So when we were talking the other day, I think it's something that's come up in my mind a lot the last 6-8 months, just with all the channels that are being added. And I think that there's channels that are being very specific about, you know, the kind of customer that they're targeting, the kind of booking window that they're working with. We talked about whim stay. They're very focused on anything within inside 21 days. We've got home to go and holiday, you know, very focused on just being almost a disruptor to the larger OTAs, the booking.com and the Expedia that are in the vacation rental space, and just having a little different message. And so I feel like looking at vacation rentals have swiftly adopted. I say swiftly, it seems swiftly over the last 18 months, but certainly over the breadth of my career, it's taken 20 some years for people to adopt revenue management strategies with vacation rentals. But adding these new channels, I think, is going to present people with the opportunity to start yielding those channels, to look at which channels make the most sense for specific times of the year, to fill in specific holes within their calendar, and add that to their channel mix in terms of like how they put their strategy together. So I think it's a larger conversation. People have so many channels that they can get onto. Some will say, oh, I'm doing fine direct, but unless you're running 100%, you're not doing fine direct. You still have room to grow. So you need channels. What are the right channels? So again, I think the opportunity is for people to look at a larger strategy that encompasses not only the rates, but again, what rates need to be on what channels at what time of year. Yeah,
and I've been taking notes again, because whenever you speak, I take notes. That's what I do. I love listening to this. So the first factor you mentioned is just the explosion of the number of channels. I don't know. In your own experience, maybe like 5 years ago, how many channels were you using like frequently, and how many channels are you using nowadays?
Well, you know, I think what's interesting is the people, you know, 5 years ago, I was actually working for a channel. I was at Expedia. So, you know, we had our channels, our family, which in the 4.5 years I was there grew. They got Orbitz, Travelocity, you know, they took over HomeAway. So I think that there, you know, a lot of growth happened just within that channel, but a lot of people didn't realize that by participating with an Expedia or a Booking, you were getting an affiliate network that was pretty vast. So, I mean, there was literally thousands of channels out there, but you just didn't know it. So I think that what's interesting to me is that some of those channels that may have operated I say in the back of the class, so to speak, that they weren't the big dogs. They weren't, kind of racing at the front of the line. They're now out front, or people have created channels to race out front with, again, Expedia, Booking, and the HomeAway. So you do have a huge, what seems to be an explosion, but I don't really know that it's probably, we've added 10 channels. There was already thousands, but there's 10 more that want to be at the front of the pack. And I think that's the difference.
And what's interesting as well here, I like the point you're making, right? I remember listing my place on HomeAway. I'm looking for the brand at the time. It was HomeAway, but actually not. It was Abritel, which is the French brand, which HomeAway was the brand in France. And then I'm like, and I also wanted to list on Vrbo, but I was listing on Vrbo because I didn't know they were using different brands across the world. And in the US, 2 brands, Vrbo and HomeAway. So to your point, you could actually be listing in one channel, being on different channels. And now we have these new channels coming up. But I think to yield channels, what's important is to understand that some of these channels are different, right? Either a different value proposition from the others. And you took the example of Wim Stays. So can you maybe explain, pick like maybe 1 or 2 of these new channels, explain how different they are, and then what does it mean for me as a property manager when I have to think through them? How different, what do I need to flex to really make the most of them?
So again, using Wednesday as an example, because, excuse me, they're targeted a very specific booking window that gives you the opportunity to, again, fill in holes, fill in cancellations. So I always try to instruct my partners, let's discount early and yield our rates up as we get closer to arrival. People kind of do it in reverse. They want to hold on to their rate, and then all of a sudden they're panicking last minute, and they put their stuff out on, direct channel, or they're running promotions on the other channels, and they've deeply discounted, and they've just eroded their ability to grow their rate. So again, if you look at all your channels and look at the mix of what they're going to bring and what they're going to focus on, that gives you a better insight on what you should be doing with those rates. So again, going back to the Wednesday example, they're not going to show your availability until you're inside that 21-day window. So you have the opportunity. Again, no one's been shopping it 90 days out on that channel. They're going to shop at 21 days out. So we can focus your rate based on that booking window. Another one that I think that, is coming on very strongly, and they've been around for a few years, but they're just, I feel like they're now just getting their footing, is the Homes and Villas by Marriott. They're going to leverage their Bonvoy members. I think it's somewhere in the neighborhood of 150 million globally. So their database is pretty vast. And now they're going to be able to cross over with points. So you're getting people that maybe traditionally were looking for last minute weekend stays to get away and use their Bonvoy points because they've been traveling for a business for the last, 3-4 months. They want to take their family away to a resort or to some destination. Well, now they can use it in vacation rentals. So there's an opportunity there to work last minute, with that channel. There's Holiday. They're coming on strong with kind of I would say, not really a specific booking window, but really looking at how they're commissioning the partners. They're not going to be taking pieces of the fees, which some of the channels are taking commission on fees. And that's very controversial, especially in the US. I'm thinking it's probably similar in Europe because a lot of those fees are passed through. So again, does it make more sense to put your inventory on a channel where you're not paying commission on fees? Probably so during certain times of the year when those fees are, lower. Like you want to be able to, you have a $100 cleaning fee in the off season. You can't really discount it because that's just a pass-through fee, but your rate is going to be lower. So if the channel's taking commission, you don't want to mark your fees up so high that it looks like your fees are more expensive than your actual nightly rent. And so again, I think it's a much larger picture that I think people really need to do their due diligence when they add channels. And so for me, that's where I feel like Lexicon can come into play as a channel manager, because we're not a PMS. We're not looking to help you manage that inventory, with your owners and your, housekeeping and all of those things. We're trying to help you manage your distribution, and looking at that distribution. My job is to coach them. Turn this channel on at this time with this rate, discount it at this window. So again, there's just so many things at play that I think that managers don't have the time, the bandwidth, or the staffing to be able to do it. So, asking the right questions and having somebody to help them guide through that is important.
And it was the question I was about to ask, because even if now I think we understand that different channels have different way of creating demand or last minute stays kind of thing. So it does mean that the rates and probably the policies have to vary a bit, right, among different channels. And it's even if one can understand this, it still means that you need someone who can guide you through this, right? Because there's so much to keep up with, right? So so if I understand correctly, that's kind of the kind of job that you do as well, right? So it's not just about enabling technically to connect with different channels. You can also advise on the strategies or what to turn on when, if I get it right.
Correct. And that's, again, that's kind of something that separates our services from a lot of the other channel managers in this space, is that we're very white glove. We're very dig in, get our hands dirty to help partners out. Some of them don't want and don't need us in terms of that level of involvement, but there's a lot of them, again, that just, they don't know what they don't know. And I've been doing this since the late 90s. So I feel like I've got a pretty good broad experience, having been on vacation rental side, the management side, the OTA side, and now the channel management side. I can empathize with all pieces of it, and I can argue the point with a channel of, they're coming after you about parity, for say, like, parity, I think, is something that used to scare people. And now it's just like, well, if you're going to mess with my rates, you can't tell me that I can't put this rate on another channel and be more competitive for what is best for my business, which for me, I'm an extension of the managers that I work with. So I think of it as my business. And I think, what is the best thing to do for the partner, for my business? It might be just, raising the rate on this channel and not getting any bookings. It might be turning that channel off for a certain time frame. It might be putting different restrictions on a certain channel. So yeah, that's what we do. And that's what I love to do with my partners, is really look at the whole picture of what they want to accomplish.
And about this question, what would be a good reason for me to switch off a channel right now? Like, what could I be looking to say, okay, you know what, I can open a lot and think, but like some of them we need to close. What would be things I can be looking at to say, okay, that's a signal, that's a red flag, or it's not going the right way and I should be closing that channel for now?
And I wouldn't necessarily say closing is a first tier option. I do think it's an option you should have. I think that you should leave all the channels on, but you might want a different strategy on each channel. Again, it goes down to, and I love, Simon Lehman always talks about the economics of being profitable, and how, money and profitability is oxygen to help your business grow and survive. And so you have to look at it. Is the channel taking more than I'm making from that booking during certain times of the year? Shoulder season, slow season, all channels should be open all the time, in my opinion. But there are times during peak season where you do want to mark up your rate, you want to mark up your fees. You might want to put different restrictions on, if your market is getting an average 3-night stay, put a 4-night maximum on, or 4-night minimum on all your channels, or those channels that are taking the larger commission. So again, it makes sense for you to be able to do that.
I like your answer. It's not just as closing as, again, more as we talked about, yielding the channels and putting different conditions, just rates or policies, length of stays, that just make it more sense for you, and just to treat them differently, basically, which does require you to know the channels, which means you need an expert here in the room. Yeah. Annie, thank you so much for the advice today. As I said, there's many ways to reach you, and what would be the best way that people can use right now to get a hold of you?
I probably say I'm very active on LinkedIn. So I would say just reach me on LinkedIn, but you can always email me at annie.holcombe@lexicontravel.com.
Cool. Thank you so much for your time today, Annie.
Thank you, Thibault. I appreciate it.